Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and welcome to the Small Biz Chat live podcast. I'm Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert, and I am excited to welcome you to today's show. Today's show is all about developing your 2021 business strategy. If you need a new strategy for where your business is going to be going in the new year, well, we have all been affected by the pandemic, and you're in the right place because we're going to be talking about strategy. We're also going to be talking about women in business and how to line up the right support. And then we're going to discuss how to make sure your brand is ready for 2021. Small Biz Chat is it's a live peer-to-peer interview show that gives small business owners a way to get and share valuable information and advice. The mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. And tonight's show is featuring 3 live guests. And we are also broadcasting from my Small Biz Lady Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and we're streaming live on Twitter via Periscope. On Small Biz Chat Live, our goal is to give our small business audience an opportunity to hear sage advice from multiple angles to grow your business and take it to the next level. Tonight's guests are small business consultant Martin Harshberger, who's going to talk about developing your new small business strategy. Then we're going to check in with Elayne Fluker, who's going to talk to us about her podcast, Support is Sexy, and her new book that's about to come out. And we're also going to be talking about really how to build a memorable brand. And we're going to be talking with Ross Kimbarovsky, and he is the founder of CrowdSpring, and he's going to be talking to us all about how to build a memorable brand presence. So we have got an amazing show for you all. So with that, I would love to introduce my very first guest, Martin Harshberger. He is a small business consultant and business advisor. He's worked for a Fortune 500 company for 15 years doing turnarounds, and then he started a value-added logistics company in Memphis, Tennessee. After 10 years, he sold his stock in the company and became a highly sought-after business consultant to small and medium-sized businesses. Martin, welcome to Small Biz Chat Live.
Thank you.
So let's just jump into this because I think that strategy is something that's really important. And I think a lot of people think they have a strategy and they don't always have a strategy. Isn't that right? Let's talk about how strategy ties into really overall leadership in the business. What do you think are sort of like the most important attributes of a successful small business leader today?
Well, go back to strategy. I think you're exactly right. Most small and even mid-tier businesses don't have a strategy. And when you talk to them about it, they think it's for large corporations. You talked about 2021. I think you have to look at 2021 almost as a startup. There are a lot of companies that have been down and really go back and do a strategy and do an in-depth strategy lets you understand your own business and your market as well as actually better than what you know now. So I think that's exactly what it is. 2021, you got to look at it because nobody knows what's going to happen. So you better have all your angles covered, right?
I completely agree with that, but I also want to take it back to something that one of my old strategy professors said in graduate school. He always said that strategy was about competition and that it was about creating value in your business that is not easily duplicatable by your competition.
That's a value proposition, and I can tell you most companies have never done that because they haven't done the strategy and haven't done the work to create a value proposition. They have to sell on price, which most of my clients, when I run into them, is exactly what they're doing. They turn themselves into a commodity by not differentiating.
Yeah, and I know selling on price for a small business, that's bad for business, right? Because it seems like a race to the bottom is a race you don't want to get into, right?
Exactly, yeah. You can always be, anybody can underprice you especially if you're a small business, you don't have a lot of cash, so anybody can underprice you for a finite amount of time and put you in a bad position.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So listen, let's talk about what's going on right now. 1 in 5 businesses has stopped operating and really is presumed dead, right? And many businesses are still on the brink of going under. And now the coronavirus numbers are going back up. I mean, what do you think people should be focusing on right now to save their business?
clarity of exactly what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. I mean, I think what you don't do is more important right now. I think you've got to look at if you've got revenue sources, you've got to look at high margin revenue sources, manage cash, reduce costs, because you don't know what 2021 is going to look like or how long it's going to take to recover. So I think if you're still there, that's what I tell my clients. If you've got low margin business, you can't hire people for low margin business and make it. So you got to try to pick your revenue sources and stay with it.
Okay, so what would you say to somebody that actually had to close down and they're trying to figure out, what's next?
That's a tough question. I don't know. There is an answer. That depends on the market, I guess. But like some of the retail or restaurants, I don't think a lot of them are coming back. You mentioned that they don't have deep cash reserves. I was working with a client right before the pandemic hit, where I was doing a refinance for SBA for a pretty good refinance package. His first quarter was strong. His second quarter disappeared and it blew away the opportunity to refinance. So, I mean, he's in deep trouble just for that quarter. So I don't have an answer for that. If I did, I'd be a lot smarter than I am, I guess.
Well, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is if your business went under in the pandemic, when you get yourself back on your financial footing and you're able to start another business, you're going to be smarter, right? I mean, you're going to be better because you will have learned this expensive lesson. I mean, I kind of feel like, all of these things are lessons, right? I think some people get stuck on the word failure, right? And they feel like failure. I think there's a difference between failing and failure, right? And I think that sometimes people focus on failure like a more personal thing versus looking at it like failing, and sometimes you can kind of feel forward.
You don't know where they landed after the shutdown. I mean, if they've got loans in trouble, that kind of thing, it's going to be hard for them to come back. There's a lot of them right now that have loans outstanding at banks or in arrears. It's going to be a tougher sell. Now, the good news is that there's no real hurry for the bank to foreclose on them because equipment and so on, they're not going to be able to sell it. So they may be able to restructure something with the bank and start from there. But most of my clients have outstanding loans, credit lines, that kind of thing. So.
Definitely. Well, what industries do you think are still growing? We're obviously in sort of like a recession era, economy right now. If you were going to scale a business or build a business right now, what would you consider, what industries would you be looking at potentially investing in?
Well, auto's coming back for sure, starting to. They say housing is starting back, which is good for a lot of clients. Like I have a client that makes industrial seals for he rises and falls with construction. So I mean, it just depends on what the market comes back. And right now, oil's down. I have a client that does a lot with oil and gas or fracking. Nobody knows when it's coming back. So again, I think it's market dependent. I think another issue is suppliers. When you do come back, is your supply chain solid? Have they gotten into trouble? So I think a lot when you're coming back as part of the strategy, you've got to get a backup for your suppliers and understand what condition they're in.
I think that's a very legitimate point. I do think one of the things that the pandemic really did decimate is supply chain, right? I mean, supply chain has really been damaged. I mean, we live in an era of global supply chain, right? So, I mean, supply chain was definitely damaged for people, large, manufacturers, mass manufacturers, but even people manufacturing stuff in the US, I mean, supply chains got messed up here because people couldn't get raw materials from wherever they were getting them from.
China, for one. A lot of the chemicals come from China. And when the pandemic hit, they shut that down. What happened? A lot of large companies bought up what supply was there, and the smaller companies were in trouble.
Sure. Where smaller companies always tend to be in trouble. So let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I think people struggle with as they start thinking about business strategy is I think people mistake operational excellence for a strategy. Like we just want to be good at what we do. Well, everybody can be, operational excellence is something anyone can aspire to, but value, having a real value proposition is different. Can you talk a little bit about the difference?
I can give you an example of one client that was in a commodity-based business, but he was doing a lot of R&D, new product development for clients, and then the client would take the product, put it out to bid to see if he was going to make it or somebody else. So we backed him up and said, "You're not going to be in the commodity business, and we're going to be an R&D company that actually makes product." So he stopped dealing with the purchasing manager that was price sensitive, started dealing with engineering, so they started speccing his product rather than. So when he did a market share, it was a gutsy move on his part, but it really worked out well for him.
Oh, definitely. You want to be in on the RFP being developed all day, right? I mean, that's a great way. That's a great way to ensure that you're always the number one supplier, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of ways to develop a value proposition, whether it's service or, but you got to do something that sets you apart from the competition, because if the customer views you the same as everybody else, he looks at two things: price and delivery, right?
Sure. So I know that you say that 50% of businesses don't have a documented strategy. And then you said that of those that do, only about 1% actually execute their strategy. Well, what do you think is missing?
Oh, that was in the Bell Squarecard. I think it was 10%. I did some work with, I can't remember his name now, the Blueprint Pavilion. He was talking about that as well. It's accountability. I mean, top management usually delegates it down to departments, to middle management, and never reviews it, never holds anybody accountable. It's one issue. They don't review it regularly. The second thing is compensation. When you do a change initiative or strategy and you delegate tasks down the line and you compensate them for day-to-day profitability, what gets a focus? Right? I mean, nobody looks at the change initiatives, especially if they're not being reviewed.
I totally agree with you. But here's what I want to do. Let's put a pin in that. And when we come back, we're going to talk even more about, leadership capacity in small business. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching the Small Biz Chat Live, and we will be right back. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady. I know you might be thinking about quitting your business and going back into corporate America, but wait, before you give up, my new book, Fix Your Business, could give you a whole new lease on life. My 12 P's of running a successful business will walk you through step by step how to grow your business revenue, how to hire great people and streamline your processes, and so much more. Grab a copy today of Fix Your Business and get your life back. Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and my guest is Martin Harshberger. We're talking about how to boost your leadership to better execute the strategy in your small business. So, Martin, why is leadership so important in a small business, and what can you do to develop your leadership skills?
Oh, there's a lot of leadership programs out there. Can you hear me? A lot of leadership programs out there. But again, if you do any research on that, leadership programs typically don't work. They don't add value, and the reason they don't add value is there's barriers to change. I read an article in the Harvard Business Review a couple of months ago, and it was really put it well. They said the strength of the people receiving the training is not sufficient to overcome the inertia of the company that keeps it going the same way. So, to go in and just do leadership, you've got to get down and look at barriers to execution down lower in the organization. It doesn't happen. Leadership's important everywhere. And every time I've done a strategy session with a client, leadership always falls out. There's always something there. But I think there's something missing in the leadership development. You can teach a person, but to change the organization is a different thing.
Well, I mean, okay, so if you're training people, but you're not changing the organization, how do you fix that? Like, what do you do to actually make sure that the change trickles down?
Well, I'm trying to do a new mentorship program right now to leadership development coaches to teach them. I've got a framework I put together this year to teach them how to ask the questions down into the organization and look for those barriers. Because I think the human factors is important. Like myself, I'm a consultant, I'm not a coach, and I don't have the human factor skills. But I've run into times a lot I wish I did have them. So I think if I could take somebody who had strong human factor skills, I could teach them to go down in the organization and look for those barriers.
Interesting. So if someone wanted to get like 3 books where they could learn how to, really develop a leadership strategy that sticks, you got any suggestions for us?
The best book I read was No Nonsense Management. It was written back in the 70s. It shows you I'm old, by Peter Slocum. But it was really good. It was short chapters, and it was the general manager's primer. And if somebody's going into management or in management now, I think that's an excellent one to look at.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Martin. It was great insight that you've given us. Up next, we're going to be talking about women in business and how to get over Superwoman syndrome. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching Small Biz Chat Live, and we will be right back.
My new book, Fix Your Business, is really about encouraging people to take back control of their business and change how their businesses is run. It's not okay to skip paychecks. It's not okay to never feel like you can take a vacation. And it's also not okay to not know how much profit you've made in your business until your taxes are done. I really want business owners to stop letting their businesses be runaway trains. I've written this book to teach people processes and systems to help them run their businesses intentionally. My goal is to help existing entrepreneurs create a business that allows them to live their dream life.
Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and we are broadcasting live from my Small Biz Lady Facebook fan page. We are also broadcasting from my YouTube channel. And we love our Twitter peeps. We are absolutely on Twitter live tonight via Periscope. Now, let me introduce my next guest, who is someone I've known for a very long time. Her name is Elayne. I've known her so long, I'm choking on saying her name. Her name is Elayne Fluker, and she is the host of the Support is Sexy podcast, featuring interviews with more than 500 diverse women entrepreneurs. She's also the founder of SiS.Academy, an online learning platform for Black women entrepreneurs. She's also the author of the forthcoming book, Get Over I Got It, which is coming out from HarperCollins next May. Elayne, welcome to Small Biz Chat Live.
Melinda, thank you so much for having me here. You're like my cousin's girl. My cousins still mispronounce my last name, and we're family, so it's fine. It's like we're family.
I just got a little bit tongue-tied. I've been talking to people all day.
All day. That's right. That's right.
All right. So tell me something. How did you get so passionate about the topic of support and women getting proper support? Where did all that come from?
I attended this workshop called Momentum in 2015. And during that time, it was leaders from all industries. It was in New York. So, go-getters, ambitious folks, men and women. And 2 things I say were hardest for us all to ask for, we realized: love and support. And when I say hard, I mean boohoo crying, don't make me ask, I don't want to do it kind of thing. So that was my first time realizing, wow, I actually have a problem asking for support. So after the workshop, you know how you go to the event, you go to the conference, you go to wherever, you get all this information, you're all turned up. And then what happens afterwards, you forget. So I wanted to keep this going for me. So I started to think of support as this idea of something sexy. So not sexual, but sexy, like a sexy dress or a sexy vacation, a sexy apartment, something you want to get close to. So I would say support is sexy, support is sexy, support is sexy, to kind of force myself to remember. And then I started sharing that with other women I knew, especially women entrepreneurs who were trying to do it all themselves. And I would see them light up. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to use that. Support is sexy. And then it just started to roll from there. So it started off as a personal mantra for me after attending Momentum. And then it evolved into me using the phrase with other people. And then in 2016, I launched my podcast around this idea of asking women entrepreneurs the role that support played in their journey.
Interesting. Now, I remember when I was coming out of college, and I remember hearing all these professional women saying, look, you can have it all.
No,
you
gosh.
can't have it all at the same time. I remember I've heard it once. I heard it 15 times at a different time. So talk about that. I mean, is that still true? Do you agree with that statement?
I don't know if I agree. I do think you can have it all. What I think we need to get back to, and this is something that I actually have as an exercise in my book, is about defining your all for yourself. Like, what does all look like for you? Your all is going to look different than my all. It's going to look different than someone else's all. I think where we get caught up feeling like I can't have it all, because a lot of times you're wanting things that maybe you're saying you want things that maybe you don't really want, or you're saying you want things that you think you quote unquote should want, or what someone else says you should want. So I try to think, and I think this year in 2020, especially, maybe a lot of people are really reflecting on this. What do I really, really want? The second really I say is italicized. Like, what do you really, really want? And what do you really, really need to let go of? You know, so there are some things,
Say that again for the people in the back.
In the back, let it go. Yes. You know, so just really processing what all looks like for you, and then deciding how to go after that. And maybe all of it isn't at the same time. I just think, again, all is something that's self-defined.
Okay. All right. So do you think these issues, though, are different for Black women than they are for, let's say, white women or other women of color?
You know, I interviewed Catherine Finney, who I know you know, right? Catherine, who is probably the founder of, she was a founder of Digital Undivided, and she was founder of Budget Fashionista. And I know she's going to be working on something else, I'm sure. But she's a fabulous woman. And she wrote this article years ago about the language of the ask, I believe it's what it's called. And it was about just what you mentioned, Black women needing to learn the language of the ask. So I interviewed Catherine and about a dozen other women for my book, but I wanted to talk to her about that, about historically Black women not being taught or even allowed to ask, right? Black men and women. You think about my parents, for example, are in their 90s, God bless them. They grew up in Alabama in the 30s, and they weren't able to ask because you could get in trouble for asking or killed for asking. So it is something I do think that we struggle with from a cultural standpoint, but other women, you know, everywhere too, have the same struggle about asking for support.
So let's talk about what support might look like now. There's a new lens of support, right? So we've got a brand new Vice President-elect, Kamala Harris, who has a husband, Doug Emhoff, who will now be known as the second man. And he is about to give up his entertainment law practice to support his wife. Do you have to pick a special man for that job? For these kind of things to happen, or is it
a special man or a white man?
I'm not saying
that's what you're. I say that. Don't come.
Man,
look,
a white man, a man younger than you, a man older.
Right. I mean, what is it exactly? Listen, don't tweet us crazy. I didn't say that because I'm saying that's what you have to do. I'm just saying that's what Vice President Harris has chosen to do. I do think, to answer your question specifically, you do have to pick a special man. And what I've learned is your man should be special. Your partner should be special anyway. But for me, I've learned you have to choose someone who is attracted to your ambition. Like, your ambition can't be just this other thing that's a part of who you are. And at least in my case, the ambition has to be part of the thing that they are attracted to, because it's going to be hard. You know, I know you're probably younger than me, Melinda, but I am a woman in my 40s. So I date men who are in their 40s, maybe their 50s, maybe 30s, but 40s and 50s mostly. So I'm not trying to change anybody who's been doing the same thing for 50 something years. So if this is something that doesn't work for you, me being on camera talking to you or me doing all the other things I want to do. It's just not going to work. And you don't want to try to force someone to change. So I'm sure the second husband was always, if not always, learned to be supportive of, and that might have been probably part of the thing he was attracted to. Like, this woman is doing it. So I don't know, we want them to be special, of course, but I really do think, and there's nothing wrong with men who don't want that, who want someone who wants to be home or whatever that looks like. I've had a guy tell me that, like, you're not going to have time to take care of me. It's like, this won't work. So it's not going to work.
Putting you off the island quickly. Okay, so I mean, I once had a man tell me, you need to find somebody who wants to be the chairman of your fan club, and I think I like that. Like, I think like that might be the right answer. Like somebody who's like, give me an M, give me an E, give me an M.
And someone that knows too. I'm maybe you run into this. When you're home, you don't want to be the superstar, ambitious woman, etc. You just want a soft place to land. You want them to have a soft place to land. So I think that's the thing too. People think that because you're, in the public, and I'm no superstar certainly, but on camera or writing books and doing the more public facing things, will say that is who you are all the time. And it's no, for me, I am a woman. I want to be adored and cherished and supported and all the other things. And I will do the same. So that's the thing too. That's why I say, your ambition is a part of you. It's not all of you. And we have to remember that for ourselves too. Our ambition is a part of us, not all of us. So this is why this idea of asking for support, letting go of what I call I got it syndrome, and being open to it is so important for us.
Well, let's talk about I got it syndrome. Let's talk about what I call that Superwoman syndrome.
That's right.
We're going to let you have your book title. Okay. All right. So what is I got it syndrome? What is that?
Yeah, I say I got it syndrome is something when anyone offers an unapologetically ambitious woman support, and her first response without even thinking is, I got it. It's okay. I got it. No, I got it. I said, I got it. Whatever I got it looks like for you, that is what I call I got it syndrome. So it's really not even being mindful of the fact that you're pushing support away. This is everything from, working on a project together at the office to the person who is at the grocery store who is assigned to carry your groceries out to the car for you, and you are struggling to do it on your own. They offer you support and you're just like, oh, no, it's okay. I got it. Just anything in the situations where there could be support. You dropped your head because you've done that? I've done that. And the guy was like, okay, I mean, they pay me to do that, but you go ahead and struggle with your arms burning, trying to carry those groceries out to the car. But we're so used to saying, I got it. It's just, we don't even think about it. So that's what I want women to be more mindful about that. And I say this, Melinda, and you're probably one of these women too. Maybe you do have it. Maybe you could do it by yourself, but how wonderful would it be to just be open to the universe trying to send support your way, to be woo-woo for a minute? Why not get in the habit of accepting support? Why not just take a beat and think about it and say, you know what, thank you. That would be great. And it's not only a gift to you, it's a gift to that person too, to be able to support you in whatever way they're trying to help you in that moment. So that's something that I want us just to be more mindful of. And it's a way of, connecting with other people and all those other things. But really, it's just like, you don't have to get it. You get enough. I always say, think about all you did today Melinda, think about all you did today since 5 a.m. Think about all you got planned for tomorrow. Let the man carry your groceries.
Listen, I hit you in the back of my head like the little angel on my shoulder, like, let them do it.
Let them just say thank you.
Right.
Yes, please, thank you.
So let's talk about COVID. One of the things that's been very interesting for me in COVID-19 has been this concept of self-care, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to think of self-care as like, oh, I'm going to go get my nails done, get my toes done. And what I have come to know, and from my, and my name is Melinda Emerson and I'm a workaholic, right? So I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to deny who and what I am.
Yeah.
But what I also know is that self-care is a thing, right? And it's like resting is actually an activity. Resting is an activity.
That's right.
And I just learned that. And I'm ashamed to say that. But I was like, resting is a thing. It's required. And I don't think enough of us, I think some of us super type AA, overachiever, ambitious women are just on go. And that's like how we operate. We on go. And it's like, but eventually your car breaks down. Like if you never stop and get a tune-up, if you never take it to get an oil change, if you never check the air to make sure the air pressure is right in the tires, eventually you're going to catch a flat. And you're going to catch a flat when you got high heels on and somewhere to go. You know?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
When you catch
Yeah,
a flat in your life, it's like you can end up with, heart attack, strokes, high blood pressure, cholesterol medicine. Like there's things that can happen. Stress kills people. And I don't know that we fully appreciate that. And I was wondering if in your research and the women that you've talked to, like this concept of self-care and support as part of self-care is a thing.
Yeah, well, I love that you mentioned about self-care, not just being about going to get a manicure or a pedicure or a massage or all these other things, which to most women just feels like another to-do on their list, right? There's nothing wrong with those things. Those are certainly part of self-care. But what I also remind people and what I talk to the women in my book about is self-care can look like healthy boundaries. Self-care can look like saying no when you mean no, not saying yes to things that you know will stress you out or that you really don't, as going back to really, really want to do or even need to do. So self-care can look a lot of different ways. It's not just how you pamper yourself. There's that. It's how you take care of yourself, certainly your health and how you eat and all of those things that most of us already know. But I think we forget about, again, things like healthy boundaries or, letting things go, as we talked about, if you're, as an entrepreneur, if you're working on a project or with a client who you just, at a point, you just know it's not working. It's all money ain't good money, right? It's a toxic relationship.
Say it again for the people.
All money is not good money, right? So that's the thing. So those kinds of things too are about self-care, even if in the business context and those kind of things. So that's what I'm finding out. And those self-care, and also those are examples of ways of supporting yourself. So yes, the manicure, yes to manicures, pedicures, all that thing, I'm all about it. But you got to take care of yourself too, your mental health, protect your, what do they say? Stand guard at the doorway of your mind. Right. I believe that's, is that Tony Robbins? Someone says that. I'm not taking credit, but stand guard at the doorway of your mind. So you have to make sure that you keep your mind healthy and whatever your surroundings are as healthy as possible.
I love that. It's really powerful. Thank you, Elayne. Listen, when we come back, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching the Small Biz Chat Live, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of struggling in your business, not taking a paycheck, dreading dealing with your business in the morning? Are you regretting even starting your business in the first place? Well, I know you're tired, and I also remember what that kind of tired is like. But the good news is, it's time to stop feeling that way. Stop! I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and my new book, Fix Your Business, is a 90-day turnaround plan to get back your life and reduce chaos in your business. I've been in business nearly 20 years, and let me teach you how to build a business that works for you. Grab a copy today.
Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. I'm here with my guest, Elayne Fluker. Elayne, tell me, what are the most important attributes of successful women business leaders? Like people that are doing this well, what does that look like? Like, who are those people?
I think, during the times that we're in, some of the best business leaders are the ones who are trying to make it a point within their organization to practice empathy and compassion. I mean, we all know about all of the other skills that you need in order to grow a business, or most of us, I should say, know about that, certainly if you're the leader of a company. But I think during this time, whether it's, someone has lost a parent or a family member or someone to COVID, someone is struggling with everything that's going on as far as social justice and systemic racism in the country, and how we're all trying to move beyond that, or heal, really, not even move beyond, heal some of those wounds that are certainly still open. Or maybe it's someone has to homeschool their kids and you're trying to have them on 16 Zoom meetings all day, so just really being open to what people are experiencing during these unprecedented times. I mean, all the things are happening in 2020. So I think the best leaders, women leaders, I would say too, empathy and compassion for yourself as a leader, because you're doing the best you can, as we all are during this time. and also for your team. If you don't hit those goals or you don't hit those revenue marks and all those other things, okay, during a regular year, but can we just kind of really assess what's been going on this year and not use it as an excuse, but to be really clear about what really went wrong or what was really different this year, and just have conversations about things, honesty, openness, create space for people to feel like there's some, psychological safety for them to be able to share what's really going on. So those are the things that I see where the leaders are, and practicing kindness. Leaders are really shifting their companies. And I will say, even seeing that from the outside, there are certain companies that I see when I hear about a leader doing something special for their employees during this time, whatever that looks like, whether they're not taking a salary or they've created some kind of special thing for people to stop working at 3 so they can focus on their kids or whatever that is, that makes me want to buy from that company more. That makes me want to support that company more. That makes me want to get behind them or tell other people about them. So I think, again, the best leaders are really starting to care about their people.
I love it. All right. So tell me, who do you look up to for inspiration and mentorship in this area of your life? Because I know for me, I have a team of mentors, right? So I have people that are sort of like my mom mentors that help me with my son. And frankly, my mother is the chairman of that committee, right?
Right.
I have women who help me, be better leaders, or, aspirationally where I want my company to go, getting on corporate boards of directors and things like that. So I have like some women that sort of like mentor me in that aspect of my life. And then I have a mastermind group of women who are more like peers, and we're all, trying to get our businesses to the next level. So like I have sort of like this bunch of different people that, advise me around certain things. But who do you look up to for inspiration and mentorship, sort of like in this area of your life?
I have similar circles as you do, with a mastermind and on mastermind of a small group of entrepreneurs that I meet with. It's women and men, myself and some others. And then I have a bigger mastermind on just a Facebook group, the Support is Sexy Mastermind, which is about 400 or so women. And we come in there and share resources and opportunities and feedback and ask questions. So that's sort of a bigger group, just to have a place to go and ask whatever questions you want. But for me personally, what's been a game changer for me for the past 3 years, 2017, I think it was, is having a business coach. So she is someone, Margot, that I talk to every week. I talked to her earlier today, as a matter of fact. And it's not even with necessarily coming to her with the problem, even though usually I do come to her with whatever the problem is. But it's more so just being able to talk out loud through something. I mean, I even had that situation today where I was talking through something, asking her a question. Then I realized, you know what, maybe I should do, et cetera. And then we started talking about that. And she supported what the idea was that I came up with. But having it in my head all day, or even the past couple of days, that never occurred to me. Speaking it out loud to her, it helped me sort of think through it, being able to talk about it and think about the different angles. So for anyone listening, having a coach or some kind of support, mentor, sponsor, whatever that looks like, where you can just share whatever's going on and kind of talk it through and have somebody listen, even if they don't have all the answers. Having someone there to listen is truly important. So that has been, again, a game changer for me. So shout out to Margot Geller, who's in Atlanta.
All right. I love it. So what kind of personal and professional staff support does a busy boss lady need to have around her?
The kind she can trust, because nothing's worse than hiring folks and then you still doing everything, right? So done is better than perfect. We have to remember that, first of all, right? So you need to get things done, and maybe they're not going to do it exactly like you would do it, whatever that is, whether it's from social media to some kind of presentation or anything like that. It's not going to be perfect. It should be as close as possible. Of course, everyone wants to do their best and practice excellence, but don't get caught up in, I'm going to hire people, but I'm still going to do all the things. Successful folks, the most successful folks, know how to build their teams, how to get support, which is what we're talking about, and how to delegate. That is how you truly move ahead. Because if you truly want to be the visionary of your company, the person that's thinking big, you need space, mental space, physical space, whatever space looks like for you to be able to do that. And you need time. But if your time is bogged down with all the things that you hired, Sarah, I have a Sarah on my team, that you hired Sarah for, what's the point? You're not going to be able to do the things that really speak to whatever your best skills are. So having a team, and a team that you decide to trust.
All right. Well, I know your book is coming out next May, but do you have a recommendation for books they're good for boss chicks?
That are good for boss chicks. Let's see. I have, oh gosh, I'm looking over at my bookshelf here. So many books that are good for boss chicks, but some that I thought about for self-care actually are some oldies but goodies. So I love Lisa Nichols. I live for her. And her book, Abundance Now, is such a great book that is about this idea, of course, accepting abundance, accepting support, or realizing the universe will show up for you. So I love Abundance Now. A very oldie but goodie, Acts of Faith, Ayanna Van Zant.
Oh,
Just
wow.
having something, you could read, that's on my bookshelf. You could read every day, just a check in, just a reminder, something that gets you in sort of a daily practice. People say you should, I'm sure you probably heard, you should wake up, you should meditate, you should do this, you should do that. Having something that is sort of a guide for you, like, okay, here's what I can do. I can wake up and read one page of Acts of Faith. I can do that before the kids get up or whatever the other thing is. So I like those two books as examples of things that you can use. And I actually about to read this book called A Blessing by Bonita Stewart and Jacqueline Adams. And they were executives at Google and talking about women of color working together and leading together. So I'm excited to check that out, but I think that's going to be a good one. I've heard a lot of good things about it. So that's a boss lady book.
All right. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Elayne. I appreciate you for being here. Next, we're going to look at branding. We're going to talk with a serial business owner, Ross Kimbarovsky, and he is the founder of CrowdSpring. And he's going to talk to us about how to build an enduring brand going into 2021. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching the Small Biz Chat Live, and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to invite you to enter the Small Biz Chat Podcast giveaway contest. For the next 30 days, starting today, you'll have the chance to win amazing prizes if you subscribe to the podcast. All you need to do is take a screenshot after you subscribe to the Small Biz Chat Podcast and tag me, Small Biz Lady, on Twitter or Instagram. Once a week, I'll select a winner, and you have a chance to win one of my autographed books, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, or Fix Your Business, or you might even get a chance to win one of my limited edition Small Biz Chat Podcast t-shirts. Don't delay. Subscribe to the Small Biz Chat Podcast today. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. And now it's time for us to have a smart conversation about branding and marketing. 2020 has been a heck of a year, but one of the things that has been really important is for brands to start thinking about things like brand story. And my next guest is the perfect expert to talk about this. Ross Kimbarovsky is the founder and CEO of CrowdSpring, with more than 220,000 experienced freelancers provide branding and design services. Before founding CrowdSpring, he practiced law for 13 years as a successful trial lawyer. He also counseled and represented clients from small internet startups to Fortune 100 companies in complex disputes involving intellectual property. He also founded several other startups, including Startup Foundry, Quickly Legal, and Respect. For more information, we can head over to crowdspring.com to learn more. All right, Ross, let's talk branding. So, the world's most successful companies make great products, but a huge part of their value lies in their brand. What is the most important thing that small business owners should understand about building a successful brand?
Most business owners actually misunderstand what a brand is. I think that's probably the single biggest lesson. So a brand is the sum total of the experiences your customers and prospects have with your company. Problem is most business owners, particularly small business owners, think that their logo is their brand. And a logo is a small part of a visual identity. So anything that you, your employees, your customers can see is your brand identity, but your brand is so much more. And so the important thing is you're not done creating a brand when you have a logo or a website. You need to invest in email, in communication, in building a voice, in building relationships with your customer, from the customer support person who answers an email to the receptionist that answers a phone call. And that's the single biggest lesson I think that small businesses really misunderstand. And it's an opportunity for them to truly build strong brands when they can cover every interaction with a customer.
But is it really about understanding your brand strategy in order to improve your branding? Because I feel like, logo, website, email, that's almost like collateral materials, right? Isn't it really about thinking through your overall brand strategy first?
Melinda, you're 100% right, because at the end of the day, if you do nothing, you still have a brand. And that's the thing about brands. But the brand that you have is not particularly strong and likely won't reflect what you do. So you should be deliberate, because if you look at, for example, the values of the world's most successful companies, whether it's Apple or Airbnb, one of the most successful startups that's just filed to go public, they invested a lot in a strategy to build those brands. And there's 6 things you can do to build that strategy. Number 1 is to really document your mission statement, your vision, your values, what your business is about. Number 2, determine your target audience, your market, and understand your competitors. This is where a lot of business owners fall flat. They assume they have no competition, but in reality, we all have competition. Number 3, and this is a tough one, is define your unique selling proposition. What's your special sauce that makes your business different? Number 4, find a good, memorable name. Number 5, create all the visual assets, the brand identity, your logo, your website, your business cards. And finally, develop your brand voice, because without strategy, you're just doing things that ultimately are not going to build a strong brand unless you get lucky. And let's face it, most people don't get that lucky every single time. So you have to take proactive steps.
Now, one of the things that I see a lot of people don't think about is like there's these different brand types now, right? So you've got the experiential brand, the service brand, the disruptor brand, innovative brand, conscious brand, and like the style brand, right? So there's these types. How can a startup brand or even an existing company process or really reinvent their brand as they thinking about sort of like these archetypes that exist already? Like, how do you think about it in terms of that?
Well, first of all, there's no right type of brand at the end of the day. Your brand is largely based, if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, your brand is based on you and what you can do. It's your voice and how you approach the market. So one way that you can assess whether you're a new company or an existing company, what kind of brand you have and where your opportunities lie, is to do something called a SWOT analysis. And it's done by big corporations, but it's a really useful exercise for small businesses and startups too. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And each of these involves a series of questions that you ask yourself and your team, if you have founders or if you have employed people, about your business and where you're maybe falling short. That will help you to define what's special. And it also includes asking questions of customers, if you already have customers, because the way people see your brand is actually much more important than what you say about yourself, because your brand image is what ultimately sells products and services, not what you say about your company.
I once heard somebody say your brand is what people say about you when you're not around. Like that's really what your brand perception is.
And that's a great way of putting it.
So, one of the things I see small business owners in particular is they don't really have a unique selling proposition or a unique value proposition. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit because there's a lot of just okay out there and nobody falls in love with a just okay brand. And so I'm wondering, have you seen this and what is the cure for this?
So I see this all the time. And of course, you see this because you talk to tons and tons of small businesses all the time too. And one of the reasons this happens is because as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we tend to fall in love with our solutions and not the problems. And when you fall in love with your solution and not the problem, you tend to become fascinated about what you do, and you're drinking your own Kool-Aid effectively. The people that fall in love with a problem, that fully understand what problem they need to solve, who has it, why they have it, why they're struggling, tend to build really strong solutions. And when they do that, they evaluate what is unique about what I do. So as an example, Apple makes nice products. They're really good. They're expensive. Why do they sell so many of them? And why do they sell them at a higher price than their competitors? It's because they invested for decades in the customer experience. And the people that buy Apple products expect high quality, expect high performance, expect beautiful visual design, and that differentiates them. every small business needs to find that special sauce.
I would absolutely agree with you. And I would define Apple's brand as a style brand. Their style, their design is integral to their customer experience, which is what would make them more of a style brand. So if you want to establish your brand voice, is that different from your brand story, or is it the same thing?
Well, your brand voice is literally how you communicate with your customers and prospects. So if you're building a funny brand, your brand voice is the way you talk to people on your website, in your email communications, in your voicemail greeting, on your social posts. And one of the things that I think a lot of small business owners forget is that your brand voice has to be natural. In other words, if you're starting a business or running a business and you just don't have that sense of humor that is needed to carry off a funny voice, then you either need to find somebody that does, or change to a slightly different strategy, because it's really hard to execute an effective voice and meet the needs of your target market if you don't have that innate ability to talk like that. So it's really the attitude with which you communicate. We expect a certain type of communication from banks and insurance companies and lawyers. We expect a different type of communication from fun, young startups and small businesses who are fun and irreverent. And ultimately, if they do that effectively, they create loyalty. And that's what ultimately is important to building strong brands.
All right, last question. How do you suggest that small business owners sort of like stay updated on the latest tools and even branding trends that are out there?
So there's lots of publications, of course, lots of blog posts and conversations on Twitter about these topics. The thing about trends, and there's two important concepts. Number one, you should definitely be aware about what's going on and try to find ways to ignore fads, because fads, if you remember back in the .com days, it was a fad to attach .com to your name, and that quickly became a disaster. Then it became a fad to have three-dimensional logos, and that was a disaster. So the best thing you can do is, when you hire somebody to help you with design, hire somebody who has the experience and the credibility to be able to steer you away from fads, to give you a custom design. Because at the end of the day, the problem for most small business owners is they underinvest in good design. And we believe that good design is good business. When you underinvest in good design, it actually ends up costing you a lot more in the mid to long term and can hurt your brand. So find credible designers who can help you build a strong brand, who can help create consistency, who will give you unique custom designs as opposed to forcing you to use generic templated designs. That's the best way to build a strong brand.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ross. I think that was invaluable advice, because I think there's all these people out here, using clip art or using free business cards thinking they have a brand, and they do not. So I am so glad that you have finally co-signed what I've been talking about for years about branding and good design. Well, what I'd like to do right now is bring back our other two guests, Martin and Elayne, because we're going to have some fun. What we're going to do is what we always call my hit it and quit it panel. So here's how this works. I'm going to ask each of you the same question, and no one is allowed to repeat an answer, and you have to answer in 30 seconds or less. Got it?
Got it.
All right. So Martin, I'm going to start with you, because you were the first person that we talked to. So you were the last person anyone heard from. So my first question is, what is your favorite business app? What is your favorite business app? So I'm going to start with Martin, and then I'm going to go to Elayne, and then I'm going to end with Ross.
Slack, I like that.
Oh, Slack is your favorite business app. I really like Slack too. All right, Elayne, what is your favorite business app?
Mighty Networks. I love Mighty Networks because you can build a community on there, and it's on desktop or on your app. But I love the app actually because you can tell who's in your area within the community, who has the same interest in that thing. And it's founded by a woman, Gina Bianchini. So I love that.
Okay, Mighty Networks. All right, I have to look that one up. I'm not even familiar with that one. All right, Ross, what is your favorite business app?
So I've been a happy customer of a project management app called Basecamp for over 12 years. The thing that most business owners don't appreciate is the importance of organizing your thoughts, your ideas, and the flow with your team. And it's a simple project management app that does a lot and saves me the headache from using corporate apps that take way too much memory, resources, and time. And so I believe that's the differentiator for efficient teams versus teams that struggle.
Awesome. All right. My next question, I'm going to start with you, Elayne, then I'm going to go to you, Ross, then I'm going to finish up with you, Martin. What is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Old school marketing tip? Oh my goodness. Old school. Direct mail. Sending direct mail. That's an old school tip, right? Sending something to people in the mail or a handwritten note or something like that. I still think that's one of the best ways to make people remember you. Sending, like you said, not with the clip art, something that was designed really nice and that you send out to folks and help them remember you. So I'll say that's an old school tip.
I like it. That's actually mine. You just stole mine. But
I'm winning this game.
All right, Ross, what is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Phone. I think people have gotten away from talking on the phone. And while I'm the CEO of my company, I will periodically grab a customer support ticket and call them and talk to them. And I tell my team, whenever you have an opportunity to talk to a person, talk to that person by phone, by video. You can't replace conversations. And even though they may be on the phone or by video as opposed to in person, it's the best way to really feel the customer's pain and understand how you can find a great solution.
That is awesome. I like that you do that. That sounds really good. What about you, Martin?
Mine's probably obsolete right now because of the COVID thing. It's face-to-face. Take a customer, prospect out for coffee away from the office where they can be themselves and just talk to them, get to know each other.
Well, you know what? The pandemic will not exist for forever. There will come a time when we get a chance to meet in person again. So I will take that. So thank you very, very much. All right. So I want to know, Elayne, what is the best business book you ever read? Martin, same for you. And then Ross will end it with you. Best business book.
Yeah, there's so many great ones, right? One of the best ones that I ever read and listened to, I listened to it twice, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, about creating Nike and just the story and that journey of everything he went through as an entrepreneur. You are going to be able to relate on so many levels, but it's so well done. I'm a writer, so I love something that's well written, and the storytelling. If you don't have time to read the book, definitely listen to the audiobook. So Shoe Dog.
I love it. What about you, Martin? What's your favorite business book?
Probably A Toyota Way. It talks about how they treat their employees in the supply chain and so on. It was really good.
What's the title of the book again?
Toyota Way.
Toyota Way.
Toyota
Way. Okay, yeah, that is a very good book, actually. I read that book years ago. That is a great, great, great book. I agree with you. Ross, what's your favorite business book?
So I think businesses succeed or fail because of leadership. And my favorite business book is actually not about business. It's called Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette. It's about a failing nuclear submarine in the U.S. Navy and how he came in as a young commanding officer and turned it around by applying a different leadership technique. When I finished reading it, I went home and I said, I got to change the way I lead and manage my team. And I changed overnight. And the impact on the team and productivity was enormous. Turn the Ship Around. A great book about business that's not about business.
I like that. That's all. Also a book that I have never heard of. So I got two new ones tonight. That's good. My favorite book is actually Disrupt You by Jay Samit. It is a book that actually I read and listened to earlier this year when the pandemic started. We all had all this extra time. I read this book and I have to tell you, it changed me. And the reason why is because the number one thing he says in the book is everyone wants to disrupt the world or disrupt their industry. And the first thing they need to do is disrupt themselves. And I love it. So that is my new favorite business book. For years and years, I always said that the E-Myth Revisited was my favorite book, but I changed this year to a new one. So, the world has frozen over. I've changed to a new book. But anyway, thank all of you tonight for coming on my show. You guys have been great. Business consultant Martin Harshberger, Elayne Fluker, author of the forthcoming book, Get Over It. I got it. Or Get Over, I Got It. And go reserve your copy on Amazon right now for her pre-order. And thank you to Ross Kimbarovsky, CEO of CrowdSpring, and thank all of you for joining me tonight. Please head over to my blog, succeedasyourownboss.com. We'll have more information about all of my guests tonight. And certainly, I want to leave you with this. My mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. But here's the deal. You never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. Good night, everybody, and God bless.